I'm tracking one more round of rain that could impact your evening. Who's most likely to see showers and the taste of spring on the way.
And removing lead from local parks. New today, the next step to make these 5 areas safer for your kids to play. Then a toddler treated for leg fractures and bruises. What a newly released search warrant reveals about the Wake County deputy charged in the case. Well, the rain is on the way out, and it sets us up for another change in the weather. You know, we had all that Arctic air and snow last week. Yeah. This week, it's all about the warmth. Thanks for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I am Dan Haggard. He even said that it's all about the warmth. It was a warm delivery. It has been a colder than normal January so far. You don't need to hear that from me. But this week could balance things out. Kat, we are jumping into the 60s starting tomorrow.
Yes, we are. And how does this sound? 67 degrees with sunshine on Wednesday. It's not just a day or two. 6 out of the 7 days on our 7-day forecast are in the 60s. The only day that's not is really close on Thursday in the upper 50s. So warm weather lovers, you get to enjoy a nice taste of spring. This is why the Arctic air retreats back to the north. And we've got this ridge of high pressure that's going to build in across the southern part of the U.S., this upper level low, bringing some rain to parts of Southern California that need it. But today we were off to a cool start and a wet start, depending on where you live. Fayetteville had over half an inch of rain. As this system continues to push east, it's taking the rain with it, though we could see a little bit of fog form tonight. We'll have more on that coming up.
All right, Kat, thank you. Tonight, we will learn more about work being done to get lead out of 5 parks in Durham. East Durham, East End, Lyon, Northgate, and Walltown parks were all found to have lead in the soil. WRAL's Julian Grace joining us now live at Walltown Community Center. Julian, Parks and Rec is going to be sharing updates and the next steps. What's the city done so far?
Ashley, that is one of the big questions that is out there tonight. I do want to tell you, though, it is a packed house inside for that presentation. And you asked that question, what are engineers doing? Well, they shared that game plan tonight. They said they have been testing the soil in those 5 parks, groundwater, and any debris underground just to ensure they know how far this contamination may have stretched. So that is what they're sharing with residents right now inside this meeting.
All right, and what could the city do tonight? What could they decide to do?
Actually, this is just simply an information session. They want to let the residents in this community know that work is being done behind the scenes and give them an update on what to expect moving forward. No decision will be made tonight. This is solely an information session.
Okay, with that in mind, how long could it be before these parks are fully reopened?
Ashley, that is the million-dollar question, and a lot of residents want to know that. We don't have a clear answer for that. What we do know is that engineers will continue to test the soil and find contaminated areas in the park. And once they identify that, they will come up with a detailed report that they will send to the state and city and an action plan on how to possibly fund it so everyone can come back and enjoy those 5 parks again. So no definitive answer at this point.
Well, they have been working on it for quite a while now. Julian, thank you.
A busy road shut down for hours. A gas leak evacuates a daycare and a new children's hospital in the works in the Triangle. We got 5 things you should know right now. Part of US 70 is finally reopened after it was closed for nearly 18 hours. This is in Garner. This is around the Timber Drive area. A car crashed around midnight. It brought down a bunch of power lines and traffic lights, and this caused backups all day long. Crews hoped to get everything cleared up by 4:30, but that didn't happen. Right around 6, crews picked up the cones and did reopen that road to traffic. A long day there. A gas leak in Durham forced a daycare facility to evacuate this afternoon. Sky 5 video here over that scene. This is right between Alston Avenue and Hyde Park Avenue. Durham fire officials say 40 people, including the students and workers, had to be evacuated from the daycare. Just as a precaution, the gas leak has stopped and the gas company is now making repairs. UNC and Duke Health are in talks right now to build the Triangle's first dedicated children's hospital. It would have 500 beds. The project could cost around $2 billion and create thousands of jobs. A location for the project has yet to be finalized.
The Chapel Hill native being held hostage by Hamas will be released in 5 days. Keith Siegel should be among the next group of hostages to be released on Saturday. NBC News reports Siegel is expected to be the first American hostage set free. Siegel and his wife Aviva were taken hostage on October 7th, 2023. Aviva was released 51 days after the attack. If you bought salmon at Costco recently, check your fridge. Kirkland's signature smoked salmon is now under the FDA's highest risk recall. The salmon could contain listeria. The recalled salmon was sent to stores in the Southeast late last year. So far, though, no related illnesses have been reported. A Wake County deputy is the subject of a Cary police investigation. A 2-year-old went to the hospital with broken legs and bruises on his head and arm. This all happened last February. Now the deputy is facing charges. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan uncovered the details in a newly released search warrant.
I just found out from Cary Police that charges have been filed in this case, but they're waiting on the DA to proceed. Now, Cary Police initially interviewed the mother of the child, who said that the child got those fractured legs while jumping on the bed at home. But then she backpedaled and actually said that the child was hurt inside the home of a Wake County Sheriff's deputy in Youngsville. In February, the Cary Police Department received a report from Child Protective Services involving a toddler who was treated at Wake Med Children's Hospital with leg fractures and bruises. Authorities believe abuse happened here at Luke Tyne's home in Youngsville. Tyne was a Wake County deputy at the time. The warrant states after dropping off one of the children at Tyne's house, the warrant said the mother and her other child went to Target. While at Target, the warrant said Tyne texted the mother and told her the child had thrown up on him. When they got back to the house, the mother said the child she'd left with Tyne was sitting on the couch eating a popsicle, crying uncontrollably. When she woke up the next day to check on the toddler, she noticed his legs were purple in color and swollen. According to the warrant, she told Tyne she was going to take the child to the hospital, but he begged her not to. Tyne told her CPS would take the children away from her if she went to the hospital. The warrant also states the mother was scared initially to disclose the entire story because Tyne had told her he would lose his job if CPS got involved. After speaking with law enforcement, the mother said Tyne texted her saying, "I'm really sorry. I feel so bad for him." Minutes later, he texted, "I'm sorry this happened under my watch." Tyne never explained what happened to the child, according to the warrant. The documents state on March 7th, Tyne encouraged the toddler's mother to destroy evidence, stating, "I would go ahead and clear out your phone, all the numbers you need, erase all your history, and then put it to factory reset." We reached out to the sheriff's office and found out that Tyne is no longer employed. You can read their full statement on our website, WRAL.com. In Raleigh, Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
Thank you to Chelsea. The nation's new defense secretary said that he wants to make some changes in military culture. And today, Secretary Pete Hegseth paused to speak to reporters as he was walking into his first day of work there at the Pentagon, and he said he supports executive orders signed today that will eliminate DEI within the Defense Department and reinstate soldiers forced out for rejecting the COVID vaccine. He also didn't use the new names for 2 Army bases.
Every moment that I'm here, I'm thinking about the guys and gals in Guam, in Germany, Fort Benning and Fort Bragg.
So Fort Bragg and Fort Benning were 2 of the 9 Army bases named for Confederate generals that were renamed in 2023. The change to Fort Liberty cost millions of dollars. You'll probably remember us covering that a lot of taxpayer money, of course, footing the bill there. Changing it back to Bragg would likely have a similar price tag, and it can't happen without congressional approval. That said, Hegseth didn't explicitly say that he plans to change the names again or anything like that. Based on his comments today, you could infer, though, where he may stand on that issue. Maybe it was habit, maybe not. But that doesn't mean it's on his agenda either way. However, Hegseth has been very clear about what is on his agenda. I just mentioned a few of them: ending DEI programs, reinstating soldiers that rejected the COVID vaccine. You remember that? You may agree with him on those things, you may not, but they are far more nuanced agenda items than changing a sign or anything like that. If it's something you'd like us to tackle, let me know. WRAL News at 7 o'clock is kind of the place to get into these issues. You can send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. What do you want to see from the new leadership that's been put in place, especially when it comes to our military, something so important to the community and culture here in North Carolina? Tell me what is on your mind, and we will go in depth.
A federal court could soon make a big decision in the race for North Carolina's state Supreme Court. Up next, we're chatting with WRAL state government reporter Will Doran about the next steps in the case.
Plus, if your favorite team didn't make it to the Super Bowl this year, you might still have something to root for. Don't worry, a few North Carolina connections in the big game just ahead. The game of hot potato over North Carolina's Supreme Court race continues. This is the election that just won't end. Today, a federal court heard some arguments in this case. Now, we've talked about this many, many times here at 7 o'clock. We'll give you one quick recap here. Democrat incumbent Allison Riggs, that's her on the right. She leads Republican Jefferson Griffin on the left there by 700 and so votes out of like millions and millions. It's an incredibly tight race. Griffin wants, though, to throw out 60,000 ballots because of some errors made by elections officials. And he thinks that tossing out those ballots could make up that margin that he is losing by, and to where he would actually be the one who wins the race. So it's all playing out in court after court after court. Now, right now, we're going to bring you live outside of the federal court, where there's been a hearing from both sides here on the argument. WRAL state government reporter Will Doran joining us there. So let's just start with what happened today. Will, give us a sense of what both sides kind of argued in the courtroom.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so this case was not about the merits of this argument and whether or not we are going to throw out all of those 60,000 plus ballots. This was about who gets to make that decision. Now, on one hand, you have Allison Riggs and the State Board of Elections. They say voting rights are a constitutional issue. This belongs in federal court, like this federal court behind us where we had these arguments today. On the other side, you have Jefferson Griffin saying that this is a state election for the state Supreme Court involving the state elections board, and it needs to be heard in state court. Now, complicating all of this is also the fact, and informing why they want this, federal courts have already ruled previously against the arguments that Griffin is making here. However, state courts have not weighed in on those same issues yet, and the state Supreme Court is controlled by a majority of Republicans.
All right. I think I got you, but let's just walk through it a little bit, because I want you to briefly explain the bit that's kind of confusing me a little bit. It's all the different courts where this is going. So you got the case both in federal court and state court. What is the real difference here? What if one court rules in favor of Riggs and the other court rules in favor of Griffin? And who are we to listen to? Whose ruling matters most, I guess?
Well, that is such a complicated question that's actually what they spent most of 90 minutes today arguing about. And the fact that this is moving forward in both courts at the same time is incredibly rare. And even the judges themselves didn't really know how to address that fact. That's what they were really grilling the attorneys on today. And so it's a really complicated issue, and it's one that could eventually go to the United States Supreme Court to weigh in on, just because there doesn't seem to be a clear answer. And in fact, going to the Supreme Court of the United States, that's exactly what at least one of the judges on the bench suggested publicly during the oral arguments today. All
right, so that's already being thrown out there as a possible solution here. Let's talk about something else, and it's really what is at the center of this, and it's that 60,000 ballots at the center of the case. They were picked out specifically because they were missing identifying information. One of our viewers we've had a lot of questions about it, but there was one I want to read you from a specific viewer named BJ. BJ wrote in and said, the Democrats weren't sloppy. The information missing from registrations was not required when these citizens first registered to vote legally many years earlier. So is he right in saying that, or do all these votes will kind of have a different story? Give us an idea about how sloppy the Democrats were, or if this is something that was kind of put into place years ago.
Yeah, well, is he right that this didn't used to always be the case? Yes. It was until about 20 years ago that the state didn't used to require this information. So anyone who had registered to vote 20 plus years ago hasn't moved or updated their registration since then. Yeah, he's right. They would not have had to have provided this information to the state, and they would be kind of grandfathered in with having this missing information. But at the same time, in those 20 years since then, when the state has been supposed to collect this information, they have not always been doing that. Most people they do have the information on, but these 60,000 voters challenged here, and actually several thousand more who aren't being challenged, they do have that missing data when the state was supposed to be collecting it. So it wasn't always an issue, but it has been an issue in recent years. To the point about the partisan affiliation, yes, the Democrats do control the State Board of Elections right now. However, Republicans have also controlled the State Board of Elections at that point. They had the control up until 2016. So this is a problem that has existed under both political parties' control of the Elections Board, and it's just being brought up now.
That's a good point. All right, Will, thank you so much. I don't envy you having to sort all this out, but we really appreciate you helping us understand it the best we can. Thanks for the reporting.
I do feel like I have understood it a little bit more. It is quite the saga. Over here with Kat now, where we are, I'm so lucky, so happy that we're going to have this warm up this week. And the rain that we saw today, it's moving out.
Yep, it matched the kind of Monday mood. It's out of here the rest of the week. Looks great. You know, we still have a couple of sprinkles that are moving through the area. The next thing that we're going to watch for tonight is actually the potential for fog to form kind of early in the night. We're situated just north of a warm front. We often see fog development, especially with the cold ground still. So just a heads up if you're going to be on the roads tonight. The next big story is the warmth, and it'll build in for the middle of the week. We are back to above normal temperatures, and this is for much of the central and eastern U.S. And there are signs that this will continue into next week, February 2nd through the 6th. Above normal temperatures are in the forecast here, and below normal toward the northern plains. One thing to note about this map, the darker the shade of orange and red, the higher confidence that we have that we'll see above normal temperatures. So this shows we're pretty confident next week features above normal temperatures. It does not indicate how high above or below the temperatures are. And during that same time period, a little less certainty here, but below normal rainfall or precipitation. After all, it is still January into February in the forecast. But we get a little taste of spring this week. The normal high is 53. We're at 60 degrees tomorrow, 67 Wednesday. We've got a pretty breezy southwest wind, so just a heads up, it'll feel kind of
This year's Super Bowl match is set. The Bills, they have another chance next year. They play this thing every year. All right, don't worry. The Chiefs versus the Eagles. If you're a fan of either of those teams, you're feeling pretty good, especially the Chiefs, who have a shot at a three-peat, which has never been done before.
Yeah. And even if you aren't an Eagles or Chiefs fan, yeah, the Bills. Oh. Well, we won't talk about that. But there is still something to root for. And neither team may be local, but there are plenty of players with North Carolina ties.
So for tonight's one last thing, we've got a list of players that you can watch out for. Depending on your college loyalties, you may not root for all of them, but we got a bunch of guys out here. So first up, the Chiefs guard, Joe Thuney. He played at NC State. He started his career with the Patriots. He won 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots. In all, he's got 4 rings. Quite a career.
And Noah Gray, tight end for the Chiefs. He played at Duke. As a junior, he was a second-team All-American. Joshua Williams plays cornerback for the Chiefs. He's a Fayetteville native through and through. Williams played at Fayetteville State University. He went to high school at Jack Britt High. And WRAL was there when he read to students at Lloyd Almond Elementary.
How fun is that? So it's not just Chiefs players. A few Eagles have connections to our area as well. You remember the backup running back that scored in Sunday night's game? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was Will Shipley.
He's from the Charlotte area. He played college ball at Clemson. Eagles offensive lineman Landon Dickerson is from Hickory. Eagles defensive tackle Jordan Davis is from Charlotte. And how about this for a fun fact? He actually went to the same high school as Chiefs lineman DJ Humphries.
Wow.
Yeah, they weren't there at the same time, but still kind of cool, right?
So I think this kind of helps a little bit for folks who, the Eagles-Chiefs matchup. We've seen it, those two teams.
We've seen it before.
Right, but now we can root for some other folks.
Yeah. Well, at least we've got some people to root for. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.